Hello, winners and sinners. This is the God-fearing Atheist. Today, I'd like to introduce you to a modern-day, real-life Indiana Jones. But before we get to his presentation, I've got him on the line and thought he might like to introduce himself.
Raucous culture in Peru.
Oh,
The
well,
driest
he's
part
off and
of the
running.
world is that part of the world. Almost no measurable moisture.
Oh
in
man,
southern
that's
Peru.
amazing.
But
Hey,
there's a
could you
little
introduce
culture
yourself
called the
first? Because some
Paracas
people might not know who you are.
And the Paracas people from about 300 to
Paracas
500
people,
BC
cool.
to 200
Hey bud,
AD.
I'm just gonna
This
mute
is
you
from
real
one of the
quick.
tombs.
So this is Dr. Dino, aka Dennis Swift. Hang on, I know that name.
Later on, we found out that the Greek accounts were correct. The dinosaurs walked upright like this, and their tails were sticking out. That was later corrected in the textbooks. But it just shows again that the ancient people had seen the dinosaurs in real life.
Oh yeah, I just have to know. Either Dennis Swift is talking to children or he himself has special needs. Are you freaking kidding me? I am so reluctant to unmute him. What you got there, buddy?
Of course,
Did you just smell a
wrapped
mummy
around
rag?
the
I'm pretty sure people have died that way.
About 3 to 4 feet of sand on top and a little bit of wood.
Are you
with no
being
rain,
supervised?
It'll last for thousands and thousands of years. And of course, it smells like somebody just recently died. And and of course, it smells like somebody just recently died. And somebody just recently died. And but so nothing counts. So nothing counts. So nothing counts. So nothing counts. So nothing counts.
God damn it. I guess I got the Crystal Skull Indiana Jones.
God, I believe.
Welcome, damn it, and I'm sorry. Let's just get on with this video because I guarantee the YouTube views dropped right after that abortion of an intro. Roll it.
Now, in National Geographic, it says no human being has ever seen a dinosaur. Now, do they know that or they think that? They don't know that, they think that. You don't know what you don't know. If you knew what you didn't know, you would know it, but you don't know what you don't know.
Technically, he isn't wrong here. We cannot say for certain that no human has ever seen Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, aliens, or God, but we also have no evidence to suggest they have. The most we have are anecdotes, and anecdotes, as we know, are virtually worthless on their own. For example, I have first-hand knowledge that Dennis Swift has a man-baby furry fetish, which means he likes to dress up as a baby and nurse from the teat of a furry. Now, looking at Dr. Smith here, my anecdote may seem very plausible, but it would not be reasonable to accept this as fact, even though every fiber of your being tells you it's true.
Evolutionists say dinosaurs didn't live with man. Any evidence that dinosaurs and man lived together would destroy evolution.
We have no evidence dinosaurs and humans lived together, except for a few fossilized footprints of dubious authenticity. Scientists simply haven't found any fossils above a certain strata of the Earth. It's that simple. If dinosaurs are discovered alongside fossils of humans, then our understanding of the history of life can change. That said, if we discover dinosaurs alive tomorrow, many fields of science would be amended, and many questions would need answers, but nothing in the theory of evolution states that living dinosaurs are impossible. Let me repeat that. Dinosaurs living today would not disprove evolution because evolution describes change over time. The coelacanth has remained relatively unchanged for 60 million years, but it has in fact changed. And while other fish have evolved much more over time, the coelacanth still fits neatly into the theory. Now, just like the coelacanth, if we discovered a living dinosaur, our literature would have to reflect that from then on.
Carl Sagan, in his book, The Dragons of Eden, he tried to account for the dragon legends in many, many countries around the world. And what he said is it came up from primitive mouse brains through evolutionary ladder and popped out of man's memory.
The book that he is referring to is called Dragons of Eden, and it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning book that concentrates in great detail what parts of the brain, if it is indeed separated so neatly into parts, control what behavior, and what behaviors are the result of hardwiring passed down to us by our ancestors. Of course, Denny probably understands the argument this way. So you really can't blame him mischaracterizing the book so thoroughly.
How did ancient people know about dinosaurs? We inherited images from mouse brains. Or man saw living, breathing dinosaurs.
This is an example of a logical fallacy known as false dichotomy, where Denny has given us two possible answers, and if one isn't right, the other must be. Of course, the problem here is that he is suggesting that there are only two possible solutions when there could be many. Now, I'll not give Denny the credit that he even realizes he's doing this, or that he's being intentionally dishonest. People fall into this trap often, thinking that a point has been made, but let me ask you this. If we cross out the first possibility, has he shown that the second possibility is in fact possible?
There's a dinosaur.
That's a fucking possum, that's not a mouse. I'm really beginning to think that they gave you the last name of Swift for the same reason that they give big dudes the name Tiny.
There's a dinosaur. Whoops. A mouse saw it. So it went up the evolutionary chain through 65 million years and popped out of some African bushman's brain, and he did some petroglyph drawings.
I am truly gobsmacked. I was going to accuse you of intentionally attempting to make the other side look bad by gross misrepresentation, but then for your side you give me this still frame from a Sunny D commercial with the dinosaur. Is that his eyebrows? Is that dinosaur her grandfather? So many questions, but more importantly, just so few answers.
When solid scientific evidence is presented, evolutionists always evoke some mystical, magical mechanism that defies description. I'm committed to the return of common sense.
Unfortunately, common sense is not always reliable, baby Huey. Does common sense tell you that a bowling ball and a BB fall at the same speed? Or that a 1.2 million pound object can fly through the air? Sorry, but your appeal to good old-fashioned horse sense is just a variation of an appeal to incredulity.
So let's prepare to believe. But I'm going to approach today the Ecostones.
Here we go. Dr. Dino's ace up his sleeve, the Ecostones. There's a lot to say about these stones, but I think I'll let Denny dig his hole a little deeper first.
This is Dr. Javier Cabrera. I knew him from a number of years. He died in 2002. That's him standing there.
Could you not find a better photo of Javier Cabrera than this Polaroid? I'm not saying that a photograph can be used as evidence to call someone's credentials into question. I'm not saying that. But when you want to introduce someone you hold in great esteem to the rest of the world, let me recommend not using a photo that makes him look like a shop owner in a cruise ship port of call.
As I said, I knew him. He died in 2002. When I first visited with him, he showed me there was a big stone he gave to the Queen of England. He gave another big stone to the Queen of Sweden. He gave a stone to the New Age Shirley MacLaine. And I said to him, you haven't given a stone to the Queen of Beaverton. And he said, who's the Queen of Beaverton? I said, my wife. And he said, by all means, she should have a stone.
Your wife told you she was the Queen of Beaverton? Denny, do you think that maybe your wife was trying to tell you something while trying to let you down easy?
So how do we account for these mysterious ecostones? There's about several thousands in this collection. And I have photographs of every one of the stones, so many thousands and thousands of them. it's a misnomer to think that he's the only person that had these stones or that he's the mastermind behind the making of the stones.
It is a misnomer that he was responsible for making the stones because they were made by Basilio Ishuia. He was a Peruvian farmer who sold Cabrera thousands of the stones.
He was a medical doctor. He did teach at Gonzaga University in Ica, Peru.
First off, the only stones a medical doctor should be familiar with is kidney stones. Secondly, I'm convinced these guys were screwing with you. Gonzaga University? I think I'm familiar with that university. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the Hooters online training course. I think its headquarters are located on a hill overlooking Beaverton. What the fuck, Denny?
There are many dinosaurs, thousands of them. And here's a man riding a dinosaur, a sauropod. Here's another stone with various dinosaurs on them.
Well, Denny, slow your roll. Let's go back a slide. I don't want you to gloss over this one. You see that T-Rex looking dinosaur? Do you see anything wrong with it? Of course you don't. It's like showing a dog a magic trick. He is standing straight up, which is how we used to think they stood. Remember the Cabazon T-Rex? We know they couldn't have stood upright like that given the shape of their hips and the head-to-tail weight ratio. Yet they were depicted incorrectly based on supposed first-hand accounts. How could that be?
1571, the Spanish chronicler Juan de Santa Cruz Pachacute wrote about these stones. And there's two of these books. One of them is in the National Library in Lima, Peru.
Did he just say library? Did he fucking just say library? Who is sitting in his audience? That's what I'm wondering. How many of them do you think attended this event thinking that they were going to get a free science lecture, yet once they heard him say library, were ready to leave, but are just still sitting there out of politeness?
1941, famous Peruvian archaeologist Jose Tello finds a stone with strange animals engraved. He's the greatest archaeologist of Peru of all time, and he talks about it.
Honestly, I had to Google all these names and I found little to nothing. About to give up on my exhaustive research, I finally found a lead. Jose Tello, as it turns out, was arrested in 2017 for having left child pornography on a thumb drive he misplaced, and it was located later and turned in. It never said anything about his career as an archaeologist, though. I did find information on an archaeologist named Julio Tello, though. So are we to believe that an interesting stone vase was discovered by a time-traveling pedophile, or that Dr. Dino Dennis Swift fucked up the name of a respected archaeologist? If it's between the two, I know which one I'm voting for, and subsequently will be securing the rights to for a Netflix series.
So this is Alejandro Pez Acerto. He was the director also of the Ica Regional Museum. When I went there to inquire about the stones, they told me the man didn't exist. See, there's a cover-up that goes on in these things because it's a career-threatening injury if you say that there's stones with dinosaurs on them.
And here we go. Finally got round to the most useful piece of evidence for the Ica stones, a cover-up. Here we have a man that supposedly lived from February 2nd, 1917 to April 6, 2005, and yet the only photo we have looks like a composite sketch of Bashar al-Assad with a mustache. See, when you pull up the cover-up excuse, any gaps in evidence or logic are forgiven, with no desire to return to them at a later date.
On them. That includes not only with secular archaeologists, that includes creationists. Creationists, the most of them have already made up their minds that these things are fakes or they are clever tourist trinkets, or there's some other explanation of them.
Wow, so you are considered too extreme for creationists. Well done. That is not easy.
Now, even if you look at the websites, and recently, again, one of the major creationist organizations just put on their website that the person who carved these is Basilio Yachua.
That's about as much conspiracy as you need. Basilio was a poor farmer. You bring him things every time you visit, And I imagine he sold at least a couple of the stones to you, but he definitely sold thousands of them to Cabrera. And I don't blame Basilio. He was doing what he needed to support himself and his family. In the 70s, he was even quoted as saying, "Making these stones is easier than farming the land." That's right, he admitted to faking the stones, people. And you must be asking yourself, if he admitted to forgery back then, why are people still talking about him now? Well, you don't know how conspiracy theories work. Anything that refutes a conspiracy is just evidence that we are being deceived. Anything that appears to support the conspiracy was only detected by the smartest people. Conspiracies can and do in fact exist, but you have to have evidence to support it, and if you cannot remove your own desires to find a conspiracy from the ability to objectively assess what you have, you end up doing some pretty silly things.
And of course, it smells like somebody just recently died, so nothing counts. Yes.